Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the iPhone 4S. Now, this phone is obviously not the newest. This came out 13 years ago in 2011, but we're going to be checking out to see if it's still usable today, or if, for whatever reason, if you're still using this, if it's time to upgrade. Now, design-wise, I think this phone still holds up today. The metal sides really add this nice touch of class to it. And the glass back is something that we've seen return in modern phones today. These smaller size, I really like this smaller size because I have larger hands, and this really fits my hands really well. I can reach all the way across with my thumb, and it just fits well. Now, one thing you will notice while I'm using this phone is that it can be very unresponsive. So let's just open settings here. It takes a little bit to open and load, and then to go into individual menus is noticeably slow. Now, this phone is running iOS 9.3.6, which is the most recent version it will use. This carrier has obviously not been connected for a while. And that's another thing. This phone is old enough that it doesn't support 4G, so you will be forced to use another phone if you want to use this on the go. So, I'm recording on my regular phone right now, and if I were to use this phone daily, I would have to use this to text. Now, this screen, even though it is very small, it's still, and is low resolution actually, but it still looks sharp because of how small the screen is. So if we were to watch a video on it, it looks very, very good. It looks equally as good as my phone just because it's so small that you can't see the pixels, so it looks really sharp. Like, text is very, very sharp. I'm sure this won't come out in video, but swiping, it handles motion very well when it's not slowing down massively, and text is very sharp and clear. Now let's take a look at this software. iOS 9 was the last version of iOS to use slide to unlock to open your phone. Obviously that has been removed in iOS 10 and newer, so any phone will now just use the home button or the swiping up on the screen, and you can actually see that the phone will not unlock if I press the home button. I have to slide, so that's interesting. I'm surprised they haven't changed that now, because iOS 9 did do that. The camera is also interesting because you have to swipe up to open it instead of swiping to the side. Swiping to the side does nothing. Swiping up opens the camera. The control center also looks noticeably different. Although I do like the design of this one better. I like how the icons are very simplistic. You'll also notice that the option to airdrop is missing. That's because that was not supported by this phone. Although the iPhone 5 was the first one that I know of that had this, had that feature. You can also see that the calculator looks very different. All the buttons are square instead of the circular modern ones. But besides that, the software looks very similar. Next up, we're going to go through some of the apps. So, first of all, we're going to look at Safari. So, one thing you'll notice here is that there's a noticeable delay between me pressing the home button and the app actually opening. If I'm just clicking on it from the home screen, it's okay, but when I press the home button, there is a major delay, and that can cause issues sometimes. This happens with most apps. So you can see, but once it's loaded, once the web page is loaded, this is just, your regular YouTube feed. Next up, yeah, you can see there, I pressed it, but it didn't register because of how much processing I had to use. And that's the issue of using such an old phone in 2024, is that many things, even if they launch, will just be so unusably slow. So next up, we're going to check out the camera app, and you can see here, once the camera actually loads, that it is noticeably simpler. There are no other newer options that would be added. There's only 5 things you can switch between. Photos, you can still take photos in HDR. The maximum timer is 10 seconds, which I think is the same on modern iPhones. And but I'll put some sample images up on the screen now. But even still, this phone, I wouldn't expect it to take anything, especially if you're using it for any major photography. I wouldn't expect you to get any major results out of that, although the photos are still surprisingly usable, as you can see. But yeah, so now that we're back on the home screen here, you can see that This still, instead of just regular books, I think it's called now, it says iBooks. The extras, you can see voice memos is different. It still has the Find Friends app, so that was removed, I believe. Actually, not even sure what that was used for. News looks very different. It still has the iTunes store. There's no just regular iTunes or Apple Music or anything like that. There is just music, and this does still work. But as you can see, I don't have any songs on it, but as you can see, there is a noticeably different interface with the very different app icon. This was changed. There's still the Game Center app, which was removed. That was just integrated into settings on, I believe, iOS 10 actually. But besides that, there's no widgets. There is nothing really. There's the control center again, but it's a very simple phone in comparison. So, now for the big question. Does this still hold up in 2024? I would say, unless you are looking to purchase one just to mess with it or, jailbreak or experiment on or something like that, I would not buy one of these. Unless, obviously, besides jailbreaking, if you're buying it for nostalgia. But if you're buying it for a phone to be usable today, do not buy this phone. Simply because, I could live with all the issues with, the browser being slow and those kinds of things. But the fact that you can't get cellular data on this, because most carriers now have discontinued the support for 3G, which is the fastest network that you can use on this phone, I would just not recommend it for any kind of modern use now. Again, if you are using it to jailbreak or for nostalgia or anything like that, they are relatively cheap. I think you can find them on eBay for around $40. But, yeah, I would not recommend this if you are looking even to get a child a first phone, simply because for contacting them, because you can't use cellular data on this phone. So just there is no purpose outside from nostalgia or jailbreaking that I would recommend this phone.